Just allow me a moment.
My name is Lorenzo Cherubini. I am a professor of English education at Brock University in Ontario, Canada. I want to thank you for the opportunity to share my research relating to a timely and important topic in Ontario, Canada, and abroad. The proliferation of social media across online platforms has contributed significantly to the dissemination of extremist rhetoric. As an online sharing of an electronic platform, YouTube has a virtual site on the World Wide Web with an estimated 6 billion hours of video watched. Extremist and radical ideology have emerged as concerning it with democratic society worldwide. Excuse me, hate speech as it is couched in position the outgroup as offensive in order to humanize the other. According to some researchers, the fear of the erosion of nationalist ideals has contributed to a populism that strategically employs the discourse of us, them, to underscore national identity and determined to reclaim traditional culture and values. At Brock University in Ontario, Canada. I want to thank you for the opportunity to share my research relating to a timely and important topic in Ontario, Canada, and abroad. The proliferation of social media across online platforms has contributed significantly to the dissemination of extremist rhetoric. As an online sharing of an electronic platform, YouTube has a global reach and is among the most popular virtual sites on the World Wide Web, with an estimated 6 billion hours of video watched. Extremist and radical ideology have emerged as concerning democratic society worldwide. Excuse me, hate speech as it is couched in extremist paradigm is often used in suspicion. Excuse me, that national identity, culture, and tradition are threatened. It is meant to stigmatize certain individuals or groups, deem them inferior to the in-group, generalize stereotypes, and in some instances, position the out-group as offensive in order to humanize the other. According to some researchers, the fear of the erosion of nationalist ideals has contributed to a populism that strategically employs the discourse of us, them, to underscore a distinct national identity that is determined to reclaim traditional culture and values. National populist ideology claims to represent ordinary citizens, cultural distinctiveness, and identity are in peril Settler Canadians that feel economically vulnerable and politically disadvantaged are especially drawn to these extremist far-right narratives that justify both their and insecurity about future prosperity. The hateful comments shared on YouTube platforms and under examination resonate with the same settler colonial ideology that are normative constructs of Eurocentric, hegemonic traditions and position to target the interests and welfare of Indigenous people. The two YouTube videos downloaded from a major Canadian newscast are entitled Confronting Racism in Canada on National Indigenous Day in 2020 and Extreme Shame, Canadian Government Faces Criticism on National Indigenous Day, June 2021. The first video, 3 minutes, 4 seconds, describes the memory National Indigenous Day. Video brings attention to voices of Indigenous communities that continue to experience discrimination and violence, with the hope that more Canadians will start paying attention amid a renewed focus on systemic racism. The second video on the discussion, 3 minutes, 6 seconds, is also shared on National Day and discusses the Canadian government's unresponsive against inequitable living experienced by some. In addition, the video also chronicles discriminatory practices against children made worse by the discovery of 250 unmarked days of official residential school students in British Columbia, Canada. This course analysis is instrumental in examining the language as a collective perspective, since it describes the manner in which people understand, prioritize, and locate as they engage in social interaction relations. By focusing on vocabulary, this course analysis that lies on ideological of the various words, systems, and metaphors, including the criticism of social phenomena under that. I should ask you that a social construction framework associated with this course analysis was used to examine the identity of the commentators by way of their interaction with language as they both represented the social world. The enactment of a commentator's identity often reflects their beliefs and attitudes concerning the social practice. Thus, since it is an outcome of the respective posts under analysis are couched in implicit rhetoric that trivialize glaring attacks. The posts are typically brief outbursts that do not include critical consideration of the systemic racism presented in the post, and instead use discursive frames of reference that agonize other like-minded. Subsequent posts point similar reference to vilify the claim that race is social reality. The language, some of the posts fuel right-wing perception and incorporate a rhetoric of violence. Users often reject adverse reality that, as an outcome of colonialism, challenges and selectors on civil unrest may be the best recourse to address the overwhelming frustration and marginalized. The discourse that contributes to the destruction of social reality and other posts is one of steadfast intolerance, concern for the marginalized experiences of Indigenous peoples is, quite frankly, intentionally diminished. Users willfully neglect the findings of the Truth and Reconciliation Report 2015, published only 5 years prior to this video. Nor are users swayed by the public governmental apology by Canada's then Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, that only 1 year prior to this video spoke on behalf of all injustice experienced by former students of the Newfoundland and Labrador residential school. The apology the heart of the and also brings relic for part of its presence. Despite public attention, therefore, the language employed in the post under discussion remains contemptuous and disturbing. The commentators do not recognize or take responsibility for the systemic racism experienced by indigenous people chronicled in the video. The rhetorical construction of the post positions the commentators as speaking on behalf of all settlers that somehow inexplicably refuse to accept the justice suffered by persons in colonial Canada. The sense of intolerance that it is behind also apparent rhetorical construction of the post in response to the second. In several instances, the respective voices of marginalized people are captured in a rhetoric of outright dismissal. The discourse contributes to a social construction of reality that suggests that minority interests have extensive favorable consequences upon broader society, and that marginalized people readily exploit their victim status to capitalize on inclusive liberal, social, and political agendas. The language reflects an intolerance of systemic racism discussed in the video. The issues are disregarded as mere identity politics meant to exploit an already generous citizen. There's often a troublesome lack of sympathy for those that depict themselves as cultural victims. The language evokes confrontational tones and needs to manipulate the public misconception that vast amounts of funding from government have been invested in it, welfare, yet indigenous people squander it. For others, sense of tolerance is serving outcome. The tone in each comment is custodial and, quite frankly, condescending. It is implied that indigenous people lack the initiative to address their circumstances and need to stop relying on settlers. Some folks utilize highly aesthetic and demonstrative language to convey the intolerance by settlers being obliged. The rhetoric of intolerance is essentially by commentators that have relinquished any support for the challenges experienced by it. For these viewers, the systemic racism chronicled in the video elicits no remorse. The language sells and emphasizes the relative which can set aside the generational and discriminatory consequences of colonial practices experienced by. So as a final word, the videos that commemorate National Indigenous Day, both in 2020 and 2021, discussed serious struggles with discrimination and racism experienced by Indigenous peoples in colonial Canada. A discourse analysis of the comment section revealed anti-Indigenous and hate-filled rhetoric. Although a mainstream social media platform, individuals freely post right-wing and often extremist views that target Indigenous people. These and other web-based sites have, therefore, become channels for the distribution of these sentiment. The language contributes to the creation of social realities and practices that undermine the adverse impact of colonial legacy on Indigenous. The discourse is dangerous and intolerant. Commentators readily post the disdain for Indigenous welfare, just as they imply a denial of settler colonial harms. Significant to this analysis, it is clear that the right wing and extremist ideology that may have once been the exclusive property of private taprooms and fringe social media platforms have in fact permeated formal channels and in the process wide. Thank you for the opportunity to present my work, and I hope you have a good time.
Thank you. With great pleasure and enthusiasm, I would like to conclude that the conference was a great success. Many people have contributed in different ways to turn this event into a smoothly running conference with very interesting presentations. This conference has resulted in good discussions and networking. I owe my gratitude to all the presenters and patient listeners, to the coordinators and the whole staff of Eurasia Research for their constant support. I would also like to thank all the universities and institutes who have sponsored our participants and our people who have directly or indirectly contributed in the smooth conduct of this conference. Our upcoming conferences: Eurasia Research conducts conference around the world. August 2026, Kuala Lumpur. September 2026, London, Rome, Osaka. October 2026, Istanbul, Bangkok. Please refer to your friends and colleagues. Thank you so much.